In 2022, a new app quietly appeared in the United States promising something almost unbelievable: wireless earbuds for $3, shoes for $7, kitchen appliances for under $10. The slogan was simple: shop like a billionaire. Within months, Temu became the most downloaded shopping app in America. By 2023, it was running Super Bowl ads. By 2024, it had expanded aggressively into Europe, Australia, and beyond. Its parent company, PDD Holdings, also behind China's Pinduoduo, surged toward a market valuation approaching $100 billion. But beneath the flood of ultra-cheap products lies a far more complex story. How can items be sold at prices that seem below manufacturing cost? How can shipping from overseas be nearly free? And why have regulators in the United States and Europe begun scrutinizing the platform's data practices, supply chains, and compliance standards? Temu's rise wasn't accidental. It was algorithmic. It was aggressive. And according to critics, it may be built on a system that shifts costs away from consumers and onto someone else entirely. This is the story behind the $1 price tag. Temu launched internationally in September 2022, backed by PDD Holdings, founded by Colin Huang in 2015. Pinduoduo, its Chinese sister platform, had already mastered a growth strategy built on deep discounts and gamified shopping. Temu exported that model globally, but on an even more aggressive scale. In its early months, analysts estimated Temu was losing money on nearly every order. Products were often sold below cost. Shipping fees were absorbed. Massive advertising campaigns flooded YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and even the Super Bowl. The logic was simple: dominate downloads first, profit later. This strategy is known as subsidy warfare. By artificially lowering prices through corporate funding, a platform can rapidly capture market share. Once competitors weaken or exit, pricing power can gradually shift. Amazon used similar tactics in its early years. Uber did the same in transportation. But Temu's speed was extraordinary. In less than 2 years, it forced established retailers to slash prices and respond with their own discount campaigns. The question is not whether the subsidies are real. The question is how long they can last, and who ultimately pays for them. Temu's supply chain relies heavily on direct-from-manufacturer shipping, primarily from China. By eliminating traditional retail intermediaries, it reduces overhead. But that alone does not explain $2 gadgets shipped internationally. One key factor is a trade rule known as the de minimis threshold in the United States. Under this policy, goods valued under $800 can enter the US, without tariffs or detailed customs inspections. Temu leverages this loophole extensively, shipping individual low-value packages directly to consumers. Critics argue this creates an uneven playing field. Domestic retailers importing goods in bulk often face higher regulatory and tariff costs. Meanwhile, Temu's microshipments bypass many of those expenses. Regulators have begun questioning whether this system is sustainable or fair. Low prices are attractive, but when they rely on regulatory gaps, the structure becomes fragile. In 2023, security researchers and lawmakers raised concerns about data collection practices linked to Pinduoduo's Chinese app, which was temporarily removed from Google Play after reports of malicious code. Although Temu is technically a separate platform, scrutiny extended to its international operations. US lawmakers questioned whether Temu's data policies adequately protect American users. Like many e-commerce apps, Temu collects user behavior, browsing patterns, and purchase history. Critics worry about how such data could be handled across international corporate structures. Temu has publicly stated that it complies with local data laws and maintains separate systems for global markets. However, geopolitical tensions between the US and China have intensified suspicion toward Chinese-owned tech platforms in general. The concern is less about shopping history and more about the precedent. When an app reaches tens of millions of users rapidly, questions about oversight follow closely behind. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of Temu's rise involves supply chain ethics. Human rights groups have raised concerns about forced labor risks in certain global supply chains, particularly related to products originating from regions like Xinjiang in China. In 2023, US lawmakers urged investigations into whether Temu could guarantee its products were not linked to forced labor under the UIC for Forced Labor Prevention Act. Temu responded by stating it requires suppliers to comply with strict regulations and denies knowingly sourcing from prohibited regions. However, the nature of decentralized marketplaces complicates verification. With thousands of third-party sellers and rapid product turnover, maintaining full transparency across every listing is challenging. Low prices often mean compressed margins. And compressed margins increase pressure somewhere along the chain, whether on factories, workers, or materials. Consumers see discounts. The production journey remains largely invisible. Temu doesn't just sell products, it gamifies shopping. Spin the wheel discounts, countdown timers, flash sales, referral bonuses, free gifts unlocked after inviting friends. These tactics mirror social media engagement loops. Behavioral economists describe this as variable reward reinforcement, similar to casino mechanics. The unpredictability of extra discounts encourages repeated app opens. Notifications trigger urgency. Scarcity messaging drives impulse purchases. This is not accidental design, it is engineered retention. The average order value may be small, but frequency is the goal. The more often users return, the stronger the habit loop becomes. Critics argue that ultra-cheap pricing combined with gamified mechanics encourages overconsumption and waste. Many items purchased impulsively may never be used long-term. The environmental cost of mass-produced, low-cost goods shipped individually across continents adds another layer to the equation. Cheap rarely means simple. PDD Holdings' valuation surged past $100 billion as global expansion accelerated. Investors see a formula that worked in China being replicated worldwide. But expansion invites scrutiny. The European Union has launched investigations into whether Temu complies with consumer protection and product safety standards under the Digital Services Act. US lawmakers have proposed tightening de minimis rules that benefit ultra-low-cost imports. If regulatory loopholes narrow, Temu's price advantage could shrink. If subsidy funding slows, prices may rise. If trust erodes, downloads may decline. The model depends on scale. Scale depends on growth. Growth depends on continued tolerance from regulators. The question facing Temu is not whether it can sell cheap products. It's whether the ecosystem supporting those prices can survive sustained global pressure. Temu promises abundance at almost no cost. It promises that everything is affordable. It promises instant access to global manufacturing. And for millions of users, it delivers exactly that. But behind every $1 listing lies a chain of subsidies, regulatory structures, supply pressures, and data systems that most customers never see. Ultra-low prices don't eliminate cost. They relocate it. Maybe onto factories. Maybe onto the environment. Maybe onto future pricing. Maybe onto regulatory systems struggling to keep pace. Temu's success is not magic. It is structural. And as history has shown with other fast-scaling platforms, the true test begins after dominance is achieved, when the spotlight intensifies. Because when something looks too cheap to be real, the real story is usually happening somewhere else.